Unless you are a participant, please keep yourself muted and turn off your video. It looks like everyone is doing that quite wonderfully. And I think that's our only housekeeping. We're so grateful to our esteemed participants who are joining us today. If you are a participant and you're here and you aren't already unmuted and don't have your video on, please do so because we'd love to see you. So now I'm going to turn it over to the wonderful Cindy Rodriguez.
Thank you, Hallie. First and foremost, I want to definitely thank the Tompkins County Democratic Committee for their partnership and collaboration with Adirondack Diversity Solutions. My name is Cindy Rodriguez, as Hallie mentioned, and I am the co-founder of Adirondack Diversity Solutions. We're a consulting firm that focuses on promoting diversity, equity, access, and inclusion through progressive policies, procedures, and strategic planning, as well as recruitment and retention. A while back, I pitched the idea to Stacey and Hallie to put together this wonderful series of sessions to really make local politics more accessible to everyone and anyone, right? We wanted to make it as open and as accessible as possible, make it family friendly. We really didn't have much of a target age group because we really wanted it to be accessible to everyone. And I definitely want to thank Hallie and Stacey for all of their hard work in really bringing this to fruition. We've spent a lot of hours on the line, really coordinating this. And thank you to Ted for our technical help here. And so the background on the local politics educational series is really just that. It was really an idea that came from how does one run for office? With the foundation of civic engagement, we wanted to put together a series that provided insight and interest, and also allowed community members from all ages, all backgrounds to really just learn and engage in their local politics at whatever level they felt comfortable in. And then also providing resources and encouragement should they want to run for office. And so the first series really focused on fundamentals, right? What different offices do we have? That was our 101 series. Our 102 series was how do you become involved and the different levels at which one can become involved, whether you're a child, whether you're a registered voter or not, or whether, you're in any other area. And then this 103 series is really the catalyst into our 200 series. We wanted to provide stories from local leaders, and we wanted you to hear from them, their journeys to office, which will then again trigger our 200 series, which is going to get to the nitty gritty of how do you really run for office, right? What do you need from campaign finance to creating a pitch and getting signatures out there. So without further ado, what I think I'll do is we'll do a round robin of introductions, and we'll start in the order of my screen. So Stephanie, I have you up first.
Oh dear, I'm not great at introductions. I'm Stephanie Wright. I'm really opinionated, but I'm also an introvert, so I don't do introductions very well. Let's see, I'm a trainer, I am a member of Calvary Baptist Church in Ithaca. I also work for Island. I manage their group fitness. I'm just a regular person. How about that? Is that good?
Love it, love it. All right, and then we'll move on to Svante.
Thank you. Yeah, regular. We should all aspire to be as regular as Stephanie is. All far too humble as always. My name is Svante. I was elected to the city council in the city of Ithaca in the 4th Ward in 2007. I was elected mayor in 2011, re-elected in 2015, and then again in 2019. So it's been my pleasure to spend my entire adult life in elective office and service to the people of Ithaca.
Excellent, thank you. And next up we have Leslyn.
Good morning or afternoon, all. I'm here. Introduction. I'm Leslyn. I've been in this community for 30 years, but still feeling new. Just happy to be here. I have done just about everything you can think of in Ithaca and Tompkins County, from being a camp counselor all the way to now serving as chair of the legislature. And my primary and most important role as a mother and wife and homemaker, and also enjoying more than I can say, being the director at GIAC. That's just me. And like Stephanie, I try to be as regular person as possible. I think people don't know this about me, that I am a relatively shy person. Until I get going, then I'm not as shy anymore. But I'll be the one who shows up in a room full of people and find a corner until somebody speaks to me. Relatively shy, that's who I am. But thank you all for inviting me, and I'm glad I could participate.
Oh, definitely. Well, thank you all for joining us. As we have some of our panelists kind of join us, we'll probably have to circle back and allow them to introduce themselves as well. But first and foremost, thank you all for your time and your service. You know, it is wonderful to certainly have you all join us on this virtual stage today, if you will. So what I think we'll do is just kind of start with some general questions. Stephanie, would you like to kick it off at this point? And maybe just start with some of our questions, or?
Yeah, sure. I'll get started with some questions, and then when the other panelists come on, I'll have them introduce themselves as well before they answer a question. I think, is that Ellen Woods there that just came on? Yeah, okay,
Oh,
see her there. Hi. I want to start with legislative woman Leslyn. Would you just share a little bit about what has compelled you to get civically involved and seek the office that you're currently in? Oh, you're muted. I think once you're unmuted, you can't remute yourself. Otherwise, you won't be able to unmute again without assistance from Ted. I think that's the way I understand this is happening.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that. Now I know. I was like, oh, I can't unmute myself. What inspired me? Ask me the question again.
So what has personally inspired you to be so civically involved in this community and seek the position that you're currently in?
So it's interesting. I'm here by way of Guyana, South America, a country that is and still practices socialism, a country that does a lot, you know, politically around citizen involvement. And that has been sort of the backbone for my engagement wherever I have gone, is always being engaged in community, always, that's just my history, always taking time to give back, and give back for us is, you know, working in cooperatives or trying to build community and leave community better than you found it. And that has been the inspiration that's been behind me participating in any community organizing. When I migrated to the United States of America, you know, I did the same thing in Syracuse, where I lived for a period of time before I moved to Ithaca, and just got involved in community, neighborhood associations, and, you know, those kinds of things, and finding out what are the issues and trying to work with a group of people, not by myself, to try and mitigate those issues. And so it's just being there with community has been my inspiration.
Awesome.
And let me
you.
just say this very quickly. She will, you know, haunt me if I don't. What pushed me into political office is Julia Diane Sams, a former city councilwoman who was a force to be reckoned with on city council and on the school board. And she always said, if, you know, the opportunity ever presents itself, you should really think about elected office, because I think you have the chutzpah. That was her word. I didn't know what that meant. To do it. It's okay. I got chutzpah, whatever that is, and I'm going to do it. So here I am.
Great. Thank you, legislative woman. I'm going to pose the same question. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the same question to each of our panelists. And just for the sake of time, the one thing about serving community is that people who serve are always incredibly busy and have very little downtime. So I really want to make sure that I am respectful of this Saturday time that each person has committed to this event. So I am going to ask that everybody try to answer in as close to 2 minutes as they can. That way we can be respectful of the time and still get through all of the questions. I have not that many. So Mayor Savante Myrick, same question. What has inspired you to be in the position that you're in now?
Yeah, sure. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be here, as well as the reminder about 2 minutes. I often have a hard time with that. So will keep an eye on the clock. I was always inspired. Civically, I always knew I was going to be engaged. You know, we grew up in a very tight-knit family and a very tight-knit community, and we grew up without a lot of money. And so the way that power and influence worked to shape the rules was always fascinating to me. Who got to do what? Why were the sidewalks 6 feet wide and not 8 feet wide? Why were the lockers 2.5 feet wide instead of 4 feet wide? Who decided what was on the school lunch menu? And I made myself a real pest, really, to my teachers, my principals, my mom, my grandparents, asking the why, who. And I always knew I was going to be engaged civically. I came here to Cornell and I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be Nicholas Kristof and right wrongs with just by writing these essays. Was not a good writer, turns out. But I had a passion for education and young people. So I started working with the Learning Web, doing their apprenticeship program and assisting with the street outreach program. Started working with Reality Check with Cornell Cooperative Extension down on Willow Ave. And started tutoring in Boynton Middle School and eventually the Ithaca High School. And then I was a junior at Cornell. And I knew I was going to stay here in town. And I knew I was going to continue working in social work, which I did. Once I graduated, I worked full time for the Learning Web. But as is so often the case, I started hanging out with, you know, who you are at that young age is shaped by who you're hanging out with. And I started hanging out with civic leaders, people like Gay Rod Townsend, J.R. Claiborne. Around that same time, Senator Barack Obama started running for president. And these Black men, themselves all with unusual names, all who had broken barriers, JR and Gay Rod on the city council, Senator Obama in the US Senate, and then running for the presidency, made me think, oh, maybe I don't have to just participate in civics. Maybe I too could get elected. So I ran for the city council, and the thing I care most about is the health and wellness of our young people and ending poverty as we know it in the city of Ithaca and in the United States.
Thank you. Same question to Enfield Town Clerk, Ms. Ellen Woods. What has inspired you to become more civically engaged, to seek the role that you're currently in? You were not here for introductions, so I'm going to give you an extra minute, so a total of 3 minutes. Please introduce yourself and then answer the question if you would, please.
So I'm Ellen Woods. I'm the Enfield Town Clerk. I was elected in 2019, and then in 2020, I defeated an attempt to abolish my elected office. So, woo! So that happened. Yay! I didn't expect that. So then I just want to tell a story, though, that has to do with early childhood, which is I used to work actually at the downtown Ithaca Children's Center when it was called the Drop-In Center. So I actually worked with Samantha McBean and Holly McBean. So I've known about Leslyn for a long time. And so that was a really transformative experience for me because our director, Lynn Jacquier, really had a mission to hire women from all over the world. And she had a mission to see women as leaders in our community. So later, Head Start, the Head Start program, right, runs something called Policy Council. And Policy Council is amazing. It's a board and it is parents and they watch our kids and they feed us food. And it has already produced actually 2 political candidates. A woman named Faith ran for the mayor of Groton. And then I ran for a town clerk. So it taught me a lot about Robert's rules and it taught me about how boards function. And I also, in every school that I've been in, I've been on the PTA. So moving up in leadership there and making an impact on my community there. But I sort of ran for office almost by accident. I got my EMT license in 2018 and I started riding on the ambulance. And at that time, I was also on 211. And someone called me and asked me if I wanted to run for office. And I didn't see myself doing that, but I knew that I was pretty good at marketing and pretty good at talking to people and seemed fun. And so I ran and I won my first primary by 1 vote. So that every vote does count. You know, when you win by 1 vote, it's like, what does that even mean? You know, what does that mean? So I would just say that that's how I came to politics and found myself here. And over the last year, I've really learned so much about the elected office of town clerk specifically, and how it does have a lot of legal aspects to it. And so that's been exciting for me. I mean, I was told at first that I would just be selling dog licenses, but that's actually a rabies control program in itself. So public health, public information. I had the opportunity while I was on the campaign trail to become a notary and a public information officer. So I found a lot of aspects of this unusual elected office to get excited about. And my advice to people thinking about running for office.
We are going to go to all of those things. I promise you.
Okay. Well,
I
okay.
promise
So I was just going to say,
Thank
don't
you.
discount any elected office because they're all important and they're all meaningful.
Agreed. I see City Judge Seth Peacock has joined us, but it looks like he's muted himself and he's gone back out. So maybe we will come back to him, circle around. He'll get like 5 minutes by the time. Oh, nope, there he is. Are you there, City Judge Peacock? Are you with us? Maybe not quite with sound. So we'll go back to that. So I'm going to let Enfield Town Clerk Ellen start with this because I know she wanted to go there. If you would just take kindly again 2 minutes or less, and I will hop in if we start to push that 2 minutes, and just explain how your role, your office, tangibly affects the lives of the people in their community.
Okay, and I'll try to keep it short. I'm sorry I went over last time.
That's okay.
So the town clerk has a really an important opportunity to connect with residents quite a bit. So during the pandemic, I actually was able to forward my phone to my personal phone, right? So I ran almost like a town clerk hotline, right, for my residents. And one aspect, you know, the website, like right before this meeting, I put out an email about our next public meeting. So I was able in the last week to get those links to be live in people's emails. And so really a town clerk facilitates access in so many important ways. And another thing that we do that I really, really enjoy doing so much is accessible permits for parking, right? So those used to be called handicap permits, but one exciting opportunity I have is really to shift the conversation towards accessibility with those permits and to encourage my residents to think very broadly about what access means. And so also, you know, just trying to be as responsive and friendly and open as possible with residents.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Legislative Woman Leslin, same question. Can you explain to us in what practical or tangible ways your office allows you to affect the daily lives of people in the community, and just sort of explain what your role is?
So as a legislator, you know, period, not just chair of the legislature, I mean, you have responsibility for setting policy that affects the lives of people, policy for the county, whether it's determining what the sales tax rate is going to be throughout the county, whether we're going to have a sales tax holiday or not, setting rates, you know, for things like recycling. Are we going to have a recycling center? So from soup to nuts, you know, a lot. I think the only thing that the county doesn't have mainly responsibility for is land use, and, you know, that rests with the city. But determining some of the, although most of it comes from the state of New York, but some of our practices for the Department of Social Services, and, you know, how do we as a legislature fund and support human services agencies that affect that people rely on, those, you know, safety net services that we all need, whether it's trying to provide space for or opportunities for getting people out of homelessness, the shelters, making sure that in cold weather that we follow the policy of New York State and that we appropriate enough money that we can do that. And in this pandemic, of course, the county is, you know, the organization or is the entity that has leadership of making sure that we do everything we can to respond, to mitigate, to help stop the spread of this virus and or disease, and to protect the people who need to be protected from it. So everything you can think of are things that, you know, as a county we have to do, and it affects the lives of people. Every decision we make affects the lives of the people who we serve in Tompkins County.
Thank you. Mayor Savante, same question. What can you, we can't hear you. Are you talking?
No.
There you are. Now I can hear you. Okay. So whatever, can you explain the role of your office and how your work tangibly affects the lives of the people in our community?
Yeah, absolutely. So the work that the 450 city employees do makes the rest of the community possible. I mean, from everything from paving the roads, building sidewalks, building bridges, GIAC, the Youth Bureau, the Fire Department, the Police Department, our Building Division, our Planning Division, the City Attorney's Office, HR, all build a spine of support that makes all the other wonderful things that happen in our community possible. My job is to both supervise those as the chief executive of the city and help make new policy as the chief legislative officer of the city. So I chair the Common Council meeting as well as the IURA meetings and the Board of Public Works meetings. And I appoint the department heads. So, and every so often you get to do something like a no-brainer, like appoint Leslie McBean-Claiborne as executive director of the GIAC. And, you know, and then your life is made easier and the communities meet better because of choices like that. So day to day, what does that mean? It means meetings. I'm in meetings all day. I'm in committee meetings, I'm in subcommittee meetings, I'm in meetings. About half of my meetings are meetings that are about other meetings. We're in trainings, we're working with our employees, a lot of human resource work. I think a lot of folks, myself included, you know, you run for office because you're thinking about the public's facing stuff, legislation, et cetera. What you find out is when you have 450 employees, you spend a lot of your time trying to figure out why it is that Mike is upset with Tom. And it was because back in 1996, somebody used a coffee cup that belonged to Tom, and now it's a whole thing. So a lot of human resources, a lot of personnel management is my job. And it is wonderful. It's high stress. Work is around the clock, but it is terrific. It's a great group of people to work with.
Thank you. So I'm going to circle back around then. Given what your role is, oftentimes community members have requests or complaints or things they want to see happen. Oh no, just yeah. So, and they don't always direct them to the right people. So I'll start with you again, Savante. What sort of questions or complaints or requests should people seek you for?
Yeah, sure. Well, first, things inside the city of Ithaca would be great. So I get a lot of requests from people who are like, I voted for you twice and I'd like you to pave Main Street. I'm like, Main Street? We don't have Main Street. And they're like, yeah, here in Groton. And I'm like, ooh, boy, you should not have voted for me if you live in Groton. That is illegal. So the things that happen inside the city of Ithaca, particularly around four things. So public safety, that's our building division, our police department, our fire department, right? The things that give us confidence that we can live and sleep without our building falling down on our heads or hordes showing up at our doors. The second thing is what we call community services, the sort of youth and senior and family activities that GIAC and the Youth Bureau provides. Third is the built environment, right? So our roads, our bridges, our parking garages, playgrounds, parks. And then fourth is our planning and economic development. So anything inside the city that has to do with one of those four things, that's a real City of Ithaca initiative. But as Leslie alluded to, there's often much confusion because the county does such great work building up our social services. People think the city provides social services, when really that's what Tompkins County does so well.
Great, thank you. And Leslyn, same question. What sort of requests or questions or complaints would be best directed towards you? She said none.
Anything and everything. Anything and everything. I get everything from, people's dogs continue to poop in my yard. What should I do? And can you set an ordinance that says, dogs should not poop in people's yards? I mean, I get everything. The thing about the county legislature is, yes, there's the county. The city is a part of the county. And also as a legislator, I represent a portion of the city of Ithaca. And so because of that convoluted relationship, I get questions about everything. But mostly what I want to encourage people to do, and I want to back up on something quickly, as a chair of the legislature, my role essentially is leading. It's leading, the managerial staff, is leading the legislature in setting the policies, in, making sure that our operations are working well. That's important. Like Savanti, I spend, 95% of my time in meetings, but most of them are productive, I will say. But at any rate, so, people bring questions to me, and I don't turn any questions away. If it's not a question that I can directly deal with, I will find out who is. I will know, okay, this is for the city of Ithaca. So whether it's about the library, that's something that's, Tompkins County, or, Savanti, potholes out in, Newfields, that's Tompkins County. And we have representatives from each of those areas who can then respond. But for the most part, anything that has to do with property taxes on the county level, anything to do with social services, and how we manage that within the county, those are questions that come, to me. Anything most of the times that have to do with how we get state government to respond effectively to citizens' needs, or the airport, those are things that come my way. But for the most part, any and everything come, and I do my best to respond or send people to the right place.
Thank you. And Ellen, I know you're not the town clerk for all of Ithaca or Newfield or whatever, but we all have town clerks. So could you share with us what your role is, and what sort of complaints or questions or requests are appropriate for someone in your position?
Sure. So every town in Tompkins does have a town clerk, and in villages they have a clerk also. And so Trumansburg has their own clerk, and then Ulysses has a clerk, and then in Ithaca has a city clerk. And so we all like each other, we're all friends. And so I can direct people to other clerks if they come to the wrong place. But so in a big place like the county of Tompkins, there is a wonderful clerk, and she has a large staff. So in a small place like Enfield, we have a clerk and I have a deputy, and we wear a lot of hats. So I'm going to take you for a wild ride, but usually the clerk's office provides a lot of these services. And then in a smaller place, just more services, one person. So you can get married. We issue marriage licenses, and the town clerk of Ithaca actually will marry people, but we provide an officiant list. I notarize all the time. I'm shocked at how much I notarize. And my deputy, previously only the town clerk was a notary, but my deputy just completed her notary. So I love to make baby notaries. Any citizen can come and I will walk them through that process. And I collect the taxes from January to March. I do dog licenses, accessible permits. I'm missing so much. I'm the legislative clerk, so I can provide transcripts of the meetings, the minutes, agendas, any relevant documents. My deputy is the planning board clerk. So she actually has a background in engineering. It's so exciting. So she provides like building permit applications, but we also refer. So we're the first point of contact. So I might send a resident to the judge. I might send a resident to the highway department, the code officer, or the board, or the, right now we have an acting supervisor, but I would refer them to the appropriate person. And if need be, I would refer them out to a service like 211. So that's like a little side gig for me. 3 days a week, I'm on that hotline. And I love to refer our residents there. And I would just thank Leslyn for the support of 211 during this pandemic time. But I love, one reason I ran for the role is I wanted to bring my experience on 211 to like really connect Enfield residents with services. So a resident can really call me about anything and everything. And I would say a lot of clerks feel that way. They're very much a first point of contact.
Thank you. I'll start this next question with you as well, Ellen, if that's okay. So this is going to be the question I'm going to ask for all three of you. There's no secret that in 2020, we unveiled a lot of things through the pandemic. There's been a lot of social uprising, and we know as a history, as American history, racism has always been a thing. And Ithaca is not immune to that, as idealistically as we like to think that we are not. And the fact of the matter is we have a lot of minorities, we have a lot of disenfranchised people, we have a lot of people who are marginalized and not civically engaged, and who feel like their voice does not matter. And I personally, I don't hold an office, but I personally think it's every person's duty to be mindful of those that we can help, no matter what station of life we find in. So a rather personal question, but as elected officials, I feel like we can ask this. In what way do you personally support and connect with those who are marginalized? And I'll start with you, Ellen, if that's okay.
So Enfield has a lot of different groups that are marginalized. In Enfield, we are the lowest income town in Tompkins County. So when specifically, I do believe that white silence is violence. So I, have a Black Lives Matter sign prominently placed inside of the window in my town hall. So, I have a legislative window and I have a community window. So it goes in my community window because every person who comes into our town hall should feel welcome. And, we display the pride flag. I definitely try to use my pronouns whenever I can. But specifically, I just, when I took office, I changed the hours. So because previously my office was open from 3 to 6, which really only serves people on the first shift and then not completely. So I try to have hours all up and down the schedule. So I have evening hours, Saturday hours. And so for people on second and third shift to be accessible to them. I definitely, this is an ongoing project and work in my life. So I feel like I could always do more. So.
Thank you for that. I did see, I live in Newfield and I do drive through Enfield sometimes, and I did see the signs and the windows. And I do want to say, I think it does make it feel a little bit more accessible in a place that might not feel so friendly for people of color. So that is significant and noted.
Okay, great.
Ms. Leslin, I'd ask you the same thing. In what way do you personally connect with and support those who are marginalized?
I am one who's marginalized. I live it every day. And so my connection is just that, with the people who look like me, whether we are women, whether we are immigrants, whether we are Black, LGBTQ plus. That's my connection, and I'm gonna start to cry. I'm a mother of 3, 2 Black males. And I'm not ashamed to share this story. My eldest, who currently is serving 10 years in South Carolina prison because an injustice system has him there. And my middle son, my middle child, who I don't sleep well because every time I hear a siren goes by or I see something come across from the police, I'm calling to see, where are you? Are you home? Something's going down at the Commons. Are you home? That's my connection. And so I'm not afraid to show up at the rallies. It's unfortunate that we have a pandemic. Otherwise, I would have been front and center in most of those rallies, but I do try to show up. I do reach out. I do host, meetings where we can all just talk about what's going on for us and be in a safe space. The beauty of working at GIAC, as I said, is my pride and joy, is that I connect every day primarily with people who are marginalized and who are oppressed. And we take that mission very seriously. That's the biggest part of our mission at GIAC, is fighting against oppression and intimidation in our community and globally. So I see those folks every day. We connect every day. When George Floyd was murdered, I hosted a meeting of the male staff at GIAC, the Black male staff at GIAC, because I know they just needed an opportunity to just download and for them to invite whoever else they wanted to. And we invited Assemblywoman Lifton so that she can hear directly from our Black males how they were feeling and what they would like for her to do as an Assemblywoman. So those are ways that I connect. And lastly, I would say I also connect by trying to create opportunities for those who are most marginalized. At GIAC, we're a second chance opportunity. We will work with our returning citizens and help them to turn their lives around and provide meaningful jobs. We will do those things at a county level. It's the thing that I'm trying to work on, and I've been trying to work on for the last 15 years when I founded the Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee. And now I feel honored that after years and years of pushing and fighting and asking and moving, that we finally hired a chief diversity and equity officer. And our staff are looking much more diverse, that people are taking seriously that diversity, inclusion, equity, and justice is not a one-stop deal. It's a continuous process, and we continue to work for it. Lastly, this pandemic and the testing and sampling sites, it was important to us as a county and important to me as the leader of this organization that citizens could access free sampling, because not everybody could pay $99 or $88 to get tested. And so bringing to the county, with the support of the administrator and the public health director, resolution for the county to appropriate monies to pay for it so that people can just show up and get tested and not have to worry how they're going to pay for it, because we know invariably Black and brown and the marginalized people of our community are the ones who would have suffered if they did not have a free opportunity.
Amen. Thank you. Sorry, church answer. Amen. Yes. Yes.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Savante, same question. In what ways do you personally connect with and support those who are marginalized?
Yeah. Similar to Leslie, there's obviously my lived experience, right? As a Black man and a child of poverty and homelessness, there's a certain well, your identity is something you wear with you always, and whether I think there's a lot of folks who assume if you achieve academic success, if you achieve professional success, even if you achieve elected office, well, you've overcome discrimination and racism. And yeah, it's shaking her head. And I've seen it with Leslie, and I know it's true for me. We are treated differently than our peers and our colleagues, particularly our white peers and colleagues. You know, it's still a reality of the world we live in. And so staying in touch with that and making sure that our government corrects historical injustices as we move forward to build a better Ithaca is really important to me. But finding ways, you know, you said it so well, you really have to find ways to represent and connect personally with marginalized communities that you don't have lived experience with, right? So women, there's the LGBTQ community, seniors, children, right? These are the people who in our government typically don't have a voice. And so you really do have to go out of your way and create a structure, as I do, visiting every elementary school in the city every year, visiting seniors at Titus Towers, at McGraw House, at Beech Tree every year, right? Holding listening sessions at town halls so that you can really download, really get a feeling for what those folks need out of their city government. And finding avenues not just to represent their voice, but build vehicles so that they can represent themselves. You know, JR and I created the Ithaca Youth Council, specifically for young people in our community to have a seat at the table, city council, county ledge, and school board, just as one example. And, you know, the poor. I spent almost my entire life, I'm in the middle class now, been in the middle class for like 6 weeks. And let me tell you, it is terrific. It is great. It is way better than the alternative. And I recommend it completely. And it should not be this hard. You know, they say it is possible. But what has to happen is 20 years, and this is what happened to me, 20 years of good luck, 20 years of uninterrupted, without a serious illness, without a serious loss, right? Without a natural disaster happening to you or your family. You can, and if you work hard every single day, you can climb. It should not be that hard. We could make it easier and we can correct those past injustices. But once you're no longer checking your bank account 4 times a day to figure out what you can afford and what you can't, you really do have to stay plugged into the community that does have to check their bank account 4 times a day. So again, not counting on folks to come to City Hall, but instead going where the people are, immersing yourself in the community to make sure that you can represent their interests in city government. That's what I believe is necessary.
Thank you. And this is going to be my last question. And it might be a loaded question, so I'll go 2 to 3 minutes each, and we'll go ahead and start with you, Svante, since we're already here. As we are making our way through this pandemic and people are struggling with loss, there are people who are struggling financially to keep their families afloat, as they always have, but even maybe more so as businesses are struggling and parents are trying to figure out what to do with their kids when they're in school or not in school. And there's a lot of added stress for people who don't have the ability necessarily to work from home. And even if they do, they have children. There's just a whole ball of wax, which I'm sure most of you are acquainted with. But talk to those people, because a lot of them may not be civically involved, and talk to us, give us some encouragement, and then explain to us why, even though we're struggling now, we should still try to find the energy to pay attention to what's happening locally in the political sphere. That's a big question. I know. I can even ramble if you want a minute to think about it.
No, it's okay. I can ramble on my own, but because I hear exactly what you're saying, and it's been so true of so many people who would otherwise be involved, but they say, I have the 3 kids. I'm working 2 jobs. You want me to come down to City Hall and do what? Please do a better job, but I can't go do it for you with you. I'm too busy. And that's totally understandable. And we do have to cut each other some slack at this time. I'll just say, for anybody who's thinking, geez, I would run for office, but I don't have my stuff together. You don't have to have your stuff together. I struggle with depression. I have for a long time, and I still, if I must say so myself, I still find myself to be a useful and energized public servant that's able to deliver for the community. And whatever it is you're struggling with, you can do the same. Because, and here's the deal, it works with power the same way it works with, there's certain kinds of energy that the more you spend, the more you get, right? This is a well that doesn't get spent down. The more you invest in your community, the more you find flowing back your way. It's like the folks who say, the air pollution's too bad, so I don't want to plant any trees, right? The trees clean the air, right? The trees clean the air. So reaching out, even almost especially if you're stressed, if you're going through personal difficulties, I think you'll be surprised by how much support you get once you begin to support your community. It is it's a virtuous cycle. But also be gentle with yourselves. It is really normal to be feeling abnormal right now. This is an extremely hard time, even if you haven't lost income, right? Even if you haven't lost your housing, if you're feeling precarious, it's because we all are. The world has changed enormously in 9 months, enormously. And we're not built to withstand that sort of radical change. And the fact that you're still here, still standing, is enough. Don't feel like you have to grab a clipboard right now and start running for office. If you're still standing, that's enough. And wake up tomorrow and we can take it from there.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Ms. Ellen, are you with us?
I am. My video, I can't turn it back on. I turned it off to shut a window.
Oh, yeah. Yes, that will happen. Do you want to tackle this question with so many people struggling in so many different ways? What would you say to those who aren't civically engaged right now, but maybe should be or want to be, but aren't sure that they have the bandwidth to do so?
So I'll start off by saying that new opportunities are opening all the time because of the shifts that we're seeing in this changing time. So there's a great Facebook group that I'm going to shout out to any woman looking to run for office called Run to Win. And, women are winning all over the country in their elections. So there's so much support out there, like through Facebook, through groups to help people. And then also previously, there were transportation barriers, there were childcare barriers, and some of those can be reduced by going digital. So that's very exciting. Since we shifted our town meetings to Zoom, there's access issues there, but there's also opportunities there. But I did want to say, I'm so super honored to be on this panel today with Leslyn and Svante. I think I just couldn't believe that I was asked. And while I have them both here, I want to talk about something that I would really like to make a powerful change in this year, which is EMS, right? So normally when someone in Tompkins County calls 911, chances are a white person is going to come to their door for a medical emergency. And there's already some state funding available for it. So I would love to have us make that change this year. And, if they want to get in touch with me, I've got some ideas to how to move that forward. So that is one change that we can make in this time. And it's, EMS is more important than ever in the COVID era. I would say to anybody thinking about running for office, I was very scared. I thought I'd be very embarrassed if I lost. I just thought it would be humiliating, but it's never actually bad for your resume to run for office. Even if you don't win your first time or your second time, it's not. People love it for some reason, even though it can be hard and challenging. I just ran for an office that I lost. I ran for captain of my fire company, and I was the first woman to ever win. And did it hurt to lose a little bit? But it was a great opportunity for me to communicate my qualifications. And I don't think that it's not, I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's not as embarrassing as you think to run and not win. It just means you might win next time. So definitely don't be afraid to take that leap. And I would say also that in order for the most people to be able to access public office opportunities, the money that we pay public officials has to be somewhat sustainable. Because when you set a salary too low for a public official, you're saying that only people of means can run. So, we just really have to think about that all up and down the structure. You shouldn't have to have a husband to run. You shouldn't have to come from a rich family to run. It's a little bit like internships. Like you shouldn't, we should pay people enough that they can run and it will be sustainable for them to serve. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. And lastly, Ms. Leslin, same question. What would you say to those who sort of maybe want to be civically engaged but aren't and are struggling right now? What encouragement could you provide them at this moment?
So when I got thrust into running for the legislature, I knew nothing about Democrats or Republicans or anything. All I know is Ben Nichols showed up with a piece of paper and said, you have to sign here because you're going to be on the Working Families Party line. I had no idea there was anything that existed that's called that. I had young children, young men who were struggling. I was struggling. There was just so much going on. I could have said, as Savante said, I'm not ready. I don't have my stuff together. I didn't. I jumped on it. I had 2 months to campaign. I had an opponent, a Republican opponent. I wore out a pair of sneakers in 2 months because I listened to the community and they said, you have to knock on every door. I didn't quite understand you have to knock on every door in your district as opposed to every door in, the city of Ithaca. It was kind of bizarre anyhow, but I didn't know. One of my colleagues said to me, if I had young children, or when my children were young, he said, I would have never ran for office. I did. I didn't know, from speaking of the drop-in center, from one day to the next, if at 5 o'clock when this meeting is still going on, if the drop-in center is going to put my child out on the side of the road because they're shutting and I haven't picked them up yet. But I did. I set those things aside, and I'll tell you why I did. Because one of the things I realized about Tompkins County, the city of Ithaca, is that we have a vast reservoir of resources and compassion. We have so much of that there were people who I can reach out to help. Can you pick up my daughter or my son at the drop-in center? I'll be there to get them. Can you hold on to that person? And they were willing to do that. Often we think that there isn't support out there, but there is. And the more I got involved in the political scene, the more I realized how much there was. And I would do the same for folks. Ellen, I agree with you. We should pay our elected officials decent money that they can run and feel okay, because it does take a lot of your time. It's no joke trying to balance the legislature and my job at GIAC and leading an organization through excellence. It's not easy. Most nights I go to bed at around 2:30 in the morning and I wake up at 6 o'clock. I don't get a lot of sleep. So it's not easy. And then there are times where I just shut everything down and say, don't bother me. I'm resting for the next 24 hours because my body needs to recoup. But I encourage people to just go for it if you're interested. Go for it. Be involved in community. If you're a little scared, you're not sure, you don't want to reach for that higher level, get involved in a community organization. Get involved in the Tompkins County Democratic Committee. Get involved. Build a neighborhood association, for example. Work on an issue that's bothering you in the community. Join the rallies, the Black Lives Matter movement. Get involved, and it gives you sort of that sense of what it feels like to be involved, to prioritize stuff, etc. I would encourage anyone, and throughout this pandemic, I know it's been hard on folks. Please, and forgive me, give me 30 seconds. I would say to people, again, we have a reservoir of resources in this community. We have such compassion in this community. Yes, we've got the other side too, but I want to focus on the positive. Reach out. You don't have to do it alone. And for all of us on this call, we can take the first step in reaching out as well to someone else, to the neighbor, to say, how are you doing throughout this? What do you need? Just any little gesture would help. We are going to come out of this stronger together. But we have to be connected, and we have to connect with each other, not just in our own little bubble. So those will be my words for people. Just go for it. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. No idea. When I got there, I put up with a lot of the stuff that Savante has talked about, and eventually I started pushing back. I still get a lot of it. I got hate mail, y'all, anonymous hate mail people were sending to me with all kinds of N-words and nastiness about why we're running for office. When my husband decided to run for council, we got double the hate mail about who do we think we are, the Kennedys, you N-word people, you're never gonna, and all of these things. Well, we dealt with it. We say, if you were coward enough to, just send it anonymously, then we don't have time to be bothered with you. So just go for it. Go for it. Go in faith. Pray on it if you're a praying person, and the guidance will come. Just go for it.
Thank you. And I'm just going to wrap it up by saying there was a beautiful theme between our panelists today. If you were paying attention, you would have caught that they're all pretty much regular people, and they all have things that they struggle with in their own personal lives, but still have taken the time to serve our community. And we're grateful for your guys' service. But they continue to serve the community. And the more you put into the community, the more you're going to get out of it. So let's get busy. And I'm going to turn it back over to Cindy.
Thank you, Stephanie. And thank you so much for moderating. You did an amazing job. I'm just saying, next presidential debate, I'm putting your name on that list. A phenomenal job. And thank you to our panelists for really taking the time out of your busy days. This is all voluntary. So thank you. And again, thank you for your public service. And, as Leslie said, getting involved to change what you don't like. That is exactly what we did here. We got together, and what we didn't like was that we don't have enough representation in politics. And we realized that it starts at home. It starts in our local communities and in our local politics. And so therein lied the idea behind the local politics educational series. And so we hope that you'll stick with us. There's a 200 series that'll start in 2021 and then followed by a 300 series. So our 200 series, as I mentioned earlier, will really dive into the nitty gritty of how to run for office. So we hope that you'll all tune in. And with that, I guess we'll wrap up this call. So thank you very much.
If I could just real quickly, just say every legislature seat is up next year. So if you're thinking of running for office, there's an opportunity. All the legislature seats are up always all at once. So 2021 election, run for office.
That's right. We'll be happy to help folks do that too. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Definitely. Thank you. This has been so wonderful. I can't thank you enough. I just want to quickly share my screen. We haven't had time for questions from the guests, but if anyone has questions, you can share them at the Tompkins County Democratic Committee email, which I've shared in the chat. I'll also share my screen, which should just be Adobe, hopefully. So you can see the email if that format is bigger text is better for you. The Democratic Committee stands waiting to help people run for office in any way we can. And we're timing the 200 and 300 series to prepare people for the 2021 elections, local elections. So we look forward to seeing everyone next year.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
You
thank
guys
so much.
did so awesome. That was great. Thank you guys so much.
Take
That was
care.
incredible. You guys rocked it.
Thank you. Thanks for thinking of
Yeah.
us. It's really kind. Really kind.
If
I'll see
Donald
you
Trump
also-
can run for office, other people
Anybody?
can.
Amen.